Hi there and welcome to the second DVD on live-action CG integration through e3d.com. This DVD will not so much cover taking a live-action plate and putting a CG object in it like we did in the first tutorial. This will mostly have to do with green screen and taking a live-action plate and bringing that into a 3D environment, so it's kind of like the opposite of what we did in the first tutorial. There's a little different workflow. This was shot on the Red digital cinema camera. This camera is an awesome camera. First off, I'd like to thank Chris Gerhardt of Lakeview Productions. If you're in the Chicago or greater Chicagoland area, check out lakeviewproductions.com. That's lakeview-productions.com. And he was kind enough to donate the camera for us to use and to just mess with. Right now the camera is pretty expensive. With all the bells and whistles, you're talking about 20 grand with lenses. But the good news, this camera is being brought forth into a smaller size, which is a 3K, which is going to be called the Red Scarlet, and that's only going to be $3,000. So that's a great price range for the student making a reel, or for a college to get cameras in the hands of their students by buying these cameras. There's two ways of taking this footage and down converting it. We will be down converting it to 2K. 2048 by 1152, simply for the reason of we don't need that much resolution of 4K. We're not making Lord of the Rings here. We're going to finish on 720p, which is 1280 by 720. Because of the purpose of this tutorial, it's shot on 720p, so there's no reason for you guys to see any higher of a resolution. Again, check out www.red.com, which is a great website, and this kind of goes over the history. It shows what films were shot on the Red. I believe Peter Jackson just shot his last film on that. The camera, you can get all the technical specs on here. But the big place you want to check out is this support will have the Red Cine and Red Alert. We used Red Cine to down convert and export JPEG image sequences. It's free. It works on both Mac and PC, and it's a great color correction program that is great for just getting out your image sequences before you bring them in. Now, you can go straight into Final Cut Pro if you want. In that case, you want to get the Final Cut Pro, of course, installer. We're going to go through just a few of the pipelines as far as how you export from Red Cine to Final Cut Pro. Unfortunately, the Red Cine, you can't seem to record through Camtasia, the actual screen, so I'm going to have to just go through it through stills. This is the interface of a Red Cine. Under Project, you'll see you'll have these different options. This is where you would set your format. It's always going to come in at 4K, and you're going to go ahead and hit File Open, and then open up your Redcoat RAW files. And they'll pop up in here, and these little breaks here are actual breaks in the scene. So here's a scene, the black is another scene, white is another scene, so it's kind of checkerboarded. This in and out point is what you set to decide what you want to export. So it's just like a Final Cut Pro or Premiere Timeline. Just set your in-out points. Again, we start with 4K RAW, but you would click on this button and bring it down to 2K, which is again a 2048 by 1152 resolution, which is high enough. We want to have a high enough resolution to maintain a high enough resolution for keying out green screen and keying between hairs, and then we'll down convert. So you start high and you end up low, which is the best way to do that. There's a few other options in here as far as cropping, if you're working with Cinescope and so forth, but that's pretty much it. There's a few color correction options, but these can be done in Combustion or any other compositing package. It's just sort of like a pre-lit process. It's also cool about the Red camera is that you can worry about white balance later on. That's all done through the color options. You can adjust it in post, which is absolutely incredible. So here we are. If we were to click down to output, you'd have different options. You just put your output settings, in our case would be under the plate footage. Format would not be QuickTime, it would be a JPEG image sequence. And this would automatically, from what we set up here in the project, would be 2048 by 1152. And you would just simply take that and hit export, and they would export actual image sequences. Now, if you were using Final Cut Pro, again, you need that plugin for the Redcoat RAW. And once you get it on your timeline, you would export as proxy.jpg. Okay, so you do export using QuickTime conversion, image sequence, JPEG conversion, and then you would save it as proxy.jpg so that you can isolate the numerical stills. And by doing that, you will get a file that looks like this. So in the long run, We're going to be using SynthEyes, going into Maya, and then going back and forth between Combustion and Maya to create a transparency plate for Maya, but eventually we'll end up in Combustion. So you'll be learning SynthEyes tracking, Maya, just Maya basic setup, and setting up of SynthEyes files, a little bit of lighting, and then Combustion. This is primarily a compositing tutorial, so I just want to keep it as much as possible as far as compositing. I'm not here to teach 4 hours of lighting and so forth. I do have tutorials on the way for ZBrush and live action stuff that's going to involve more of that, but as of right now, this is more of an intermediate. So here's the footage that we shot with the Red camera, and again, what we shot on the day and what you can shoot, and we just did this in a basement, which is really great. We lit it with just basic lights from Home Depot, and these little points here are just yellow dots. Now, why yellow? Well, it's kind of like outside the spectrum as far as in the green channel. It'll be a lot easier to key out. One thing, it's very luminescent. You want to have very luminescent tracking dots. We will be keying out the yellow as well as the green, and then using some masks and so forth and techniques to isolate this. Now, this isn't a very well lit green screen, but because of the techniques we'll use, we don't have to worry about that too much. You don't have to have a perfect green screen anymore. This isn't the days of the 1980s where we had to light the absolutely perfect green screen for old keyers, you know, that have to be perfect. Okay, we're dealing with digital technology, the ability to set up masks, and so forth. So it doesn't have to be perfect. What has to be done, though, is you have to isolate your character with lighting up front. So we have a couple lights that are gelled in front of Caleb right here. A key light, yellow light right over here by his face, a little bit of a backlight, and a little bit of fill on this side. So you want to isolate your foreground and your background object with different lighting. Just lighting back here and then lighting for your character. If anything, leave your green screen dark if you're having a hard time or you're getting spill onto your character.